Last week at a press conference, Dana White doubled down on the fact that Arman Tsarukyan is not getting the next title shot despite beating the brakes off of Dan Hooker. And as we all know, Arman Tsarukyan kind of screwed the UFC at UFC 311 when he backed out of his fight versus Islam the night before weigh-ins. The UFC had to scramble, put together what was perceived as a lesser fight, and ultimately lost some money in pay-per-view buys, in advertising, and overall just a lesser experience. But now here we are, essentially a full year later. Arman sat on the sidelines. He made weight as a backup. He then beat Dan Hooker and was told, you are the next person to get a title shot, only to find out he got skipped over for Paddy and Justin Gaethje. Dana White was asked about this at the press conference and essentially said, yeah, I don't care. That guy screwed us. He's going to wait even longer. He has to pay his penance. I'm not quite ready to put him in that position yet. So there's two questions to be had. One, what the hell else does this guy have to do for the UFC to forgive him? And two, the UFC is also, or Dana White specifically, is also working with a boxing promotion called TKO Boxing. TKO Boxing is trying to remove or amend the Ali Act, which protects boxers from overbearing promoters. So for Dana White to sit here and refuse a title shot to the rightful number one, does that sort of hurt his chances to make that case? Josh, no funny segue from me. What the hell do you think about all of this? Like, has it gone too far? Is it ridiculous at this point that Arman Tsarukyan was told he's next up, beats the brakes off of somebody, and just isn't next up? And now it's just some open-ended nonsense of like, yeah, I don't care. He's not fighting next anyway.
I mean, are we going to pretend that like this hasn't happened before? The history has shown this has happened. This happens all the time. I think now it's, I know I saw it, Ariel had put out some stuff basically saying like, hey, you know, like he's making a case for Arman, and I'm all for the case with Arman. I agree with Ariel in this situation, but there's been multiple times in the past where fighters have been overlooked. And let's just talk recently. Evloev right now is being looked over nonstop. It's more of a, I believe it's more of a wrestler thing. If you take the stats on guys that have had to earn their way to a title shot, it's always the wrestlers that have to win 8, 9 consecutive fights in a row to get to that title shot. It's just so happened that it's Arman right now who's looked so dominant and has a little bit of a following and just, you know, kind of burned the UFC with the whole not making the weight or taking the fight. Ultimately, he should have taken the fight, gone out there, put on a great performance, taken the hit on the pay, and basically made a case for himself. Let's just say he would have beat Islam. Then he'd be like, look, I get an automatic rematch. There's no way they couldn't have done it. So much money goes into marketing these fights, and people, they gloss over that when talking about why Dana's upset. Millions and millions of dollars went into promoting Arman versus Islam, and it didn't happen because either he pulled out or he had a back injury or wasn't going to make weight. Whatever it was, he chose not to fight. And that is what really this comes down to. The end game every single time will always be money. What did you cost me? You made us look bad. How much of a pain in the ass it was, not even just because you pulled out, but it's because like I had to find a replacement and juggle some guys around. I still had to pay the fighter that didn't fight because your replacement was Moicano, who stepped in on short notice. So that guy was then without a fight. So there was a lot of things that happened for this whole thing to come to fruition. And I couldn't explain to you why Evloev is not getting a fight. That's one. Other past fighters before that were wrestlers, how many fights did Merab and Bilal have to win before they got to a title shot? Now, Merab was a little bit different because he was waiting for Aljo. But in that situation, he's still a wrestler. And like he said, we didn't hit it off on the great, you know, Dana said it multiple times. I wasn't a big Merab fan until he became champion. And now he wants to fight everybody. Love it. Okay. But all these other fighters, I look at it as more of a dig at the wrestlers, more so than I look at it as a dig at Arman. Arman put himself in this situation, though. Let's just be honest.
Sure. I agree. He definitely put himself in this situation, if you will. He sort of screwed the UFC that night. What Ariel did a good job of while talking about this on his show is he had receipts, which is what he's known for. And he had clips. He had a clip of Dana White saying before the Arman Dan Hooker fight, Arman gets the next title shot if he wins. And I think he actually said the winner of this fight gets the next title shot. So Arman held up to his side. Not only did he get a win, it was a dominant win. And the UFC had another fight booked immediately. They didn't even wait For them to have announced Paddy versus Justin basically immediately following the Arman Hooker fight means they were already working on that. Then he also had clips of Dana, to the point that we were making, that Arman screwed the UFC. They lost a ton of money. Dana, after UFC 311, after Arman doesn't make weight, after we end up with Moicano in a title fight that wasn't very competitive at all, Dana said something to the effect of, we were projecting $8 million at the gate. We got 10. So basically, hey, we actually ended up making more money than we thought we would. So turns out Arman being swapped for Moicano didn't have the negative monetary effect that we thought it would. So our Ariel did a really good job just providing all of that information to be like, so what is it? Why are you not giving him the next fight? I personally feel that the UFC is avoiding Arman because they want more exciting fights. The UFC is a different business model than traditional sports. Traditional sports are, here are the teams, here's your division, we're just going to go by record and direct competition, and you're just going to work your way up through a tournament. That's how the NFL works. That's how the NBA works. That's how most sports work. The UFC is different. The UFC is basically chasing views every single week. We obviously have title fights and we have rankings and contenders. We have title eliminators, but the reality is it is always chasing views. They will always put together whatever fight should get the most amount of views. If you gave the UFC an option and you said, hey, you can have your champion fight the number one contender for about 500,000 views, or somebody coming off 2 losses in a row ranked 10, but they're going to get 10 million views, I would bet 9 out of 10 times the UFC is going to go with the lower ranked, undeserving fighter and chasing the views. And that's the business model. And you need the views to get the advertisers. You need the views to pay the bills. The views are what keeps them in business. So I can understand why the UFC is making these decisions. And I do think that's what happened here. Not because Arman's boring. He has been boring in the past, but he ran through Dan Hooker. And obviously Arman versus Ilya is a pretty big fight. Ilya's on the sidelines. So now I think the UFC is like, you know what? We have Paddy Pimblett, probably the biggest non-champion in this division as far as just fame is concerned. And
might be in the sport.
I don't know if it's full sport, but certainly that division. But yeah, I mean, he's obviously a very popular fighter with the fans. And then the second piece to all of that is Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje, always in an exciting fight, whether he's deserving or not, a different argument, but he's always in an exciting fight. Former BMF world champion, and he's on his way out and basically said, you know, you're going to throw me in a title fight or I'm probably just going to leave this sport. So the UFC did that. And the winner of that will fight Ilya. And they're just going to let Arman sit in the lurch. And I get it, because Arman could beat all of them, including Ilya. And all of a sudden, a couple of cash cows are no longer cash cows. So I think this has more to do with chasing views than it does with, this guy pissed me off in January, so I'm still punishing him.
Okay, so I think both things can be true. This guy pissed me off in January or whenever it was he was supposed to fight Islam, and that's true. Dana White holds grudges. Let's not pretend. That's why Ariel and him, he's still out. That's why whoever works with Ariel, they're out. Like, he holds grudges. Certain people that I know, they're not allowed at the UFC events anymore. They're not working for the UFC events anymore because he holds grudges. But you are correct in saying that he is just chasing views, especially right now with a new TV deal. Let's put this in perspective. If he takes Justin and he takes Paddy, either one of those fights that potentially can end up on the White House against Ilya is a win-win for him. If Paddy wins, I think it's more of a win for him than Justin wins. But either way, he gets a great fight if Justin wins against Ilya Topuria. It's going to be a stand-up. Both guys are going to sling. Someone's getting knocked out. That's what he wants. And if it's not going to be him, then at least he gets the views. If Paddy wins, he gets an opportunity, a chance to have a whole country versus another whole country. And you have the champion, who's a 2-division champion, and the two of them have had words together back and forth. There's talking pieces, there's PR, there's promos, everything that they can cut from past interviews with each other. They've got video footage of them crossing paths at hotels, inside casinos, in the elevator. They have all that footage. So they can put things together to sell that fight. Paddy and Ilya is a bigger fight than Justin and Ilya, but Justin, no one's going to turn away. They're going to all be glued to the TV for the whole 2 minutes of the fight that happens. Okay. Armand is obviously the odd man out, which was the question was asked. He's the odd man out. No, I wouldn't say he's the odd man out. No, he is the odd man out. He's just not going to do the numbers that neither one of those guys will do. Justin's going to put on a great fight. It will not be a wrestling fight. That's why I put the question in front of you. Is the headline on this video that we're doing right now, is it more so geared towards why does he hate Arman? Or is it more so geared towards why he hates wrestlers? Because if you look at the history of the wrestlers, it takes them 7, 8, 9, 10 fights to get to a title shot. Whereas guys like Alex, right? He had 2 or 3 fights and then he got a title shot. And then he went right up to the next division, got a title shot. Like it's always the strikers that are fast-tracked, the Conor McGregor format, right? Give them guys that were only stand-up guys. And when you did put him against a wrestler, the guy came on 5 days notice, and Chad Mendes. And then Chad dominated the first round, and luckily he gassed out, and then Conor gets the win. And then we go right to the next fight, who's mainly Aldo is good, good for he's known for his striking, great takedown defense, but you knew it was going to be a stand-up fight, which is more tailor-made for Conor McGregor. The UFC is putting this fight together because they know whoever wins is going to do huge numbers for the White House card. And Ilya will be on that card. Ilya and the winner of that fight will fight. Arman will be the odd man out. That's just how it's going to go. And like you said, they are chasing numbers, especially with the TV deal of CBS and Paramount. In this first year, they need to deliver. They have to deliver. They have to put their best fights forward. They have to do the biggest numbers. And I'm not going to hold it against them. At $1.1 billion a year, they need to produce the best fights they possibly can. If they got to skip over rankings, that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I think it's, if you're referring to the title of the video, I don't think it's why does the UFC hate wrestlers or does the UFC hate Arman? I think that side's pretty clear. They're just chasing views, and certain style wrestlers, Grant Dawson, are perceived as boring and don't drive the excitement. And the last thing you want to see is somebody laid on their back for 15 to 25 minutes, just slowing down the pace of a card. So I think that's a pretty obvious answer for that side. I think this is more, will the holding back of wrestlers, or Arman in this case, negatively affect the business as a whole? And I think you do lose some credibility, right? When you publicly say the winner of this fight will get the next title shot, and then that doesn't happen, and there's no valid reason for it not to happen, meaning there's not an injury, that doesn't happen, and then you publicly say, I don't care what the rankings say, literally what Dana said, I don't care what the numbers are, meaning the rank, this is the fight we're doing. He screwed us up, you can't do that, we'll figure him out later. You can't say both of those things, at least not back to back. Like whatever, if he came out from the beginning and was like, dude, Arman's not going to be fighting for a title for minimum 2 years and 3 fights later, then this wouldn't be as dramatic. But you sat there and you said with your own words, Arman will get the next title shot, just to not give it to him, and then say with your own words, nah, this guy pissed me off, I'm still mad at him, not doing it. It just invalidates everything you say. It invalidates all of it. Now, anytime this person will get the next title shot, this is a title eliminator. We just don't quite know. But I think it's even bigger than that, because as a fan who from time to time gets frustrated with the machine that is the UFC and the decisions they make, I still show up. I will still watch every fight. I can be annoyed, but I'm still going to be here. You can count on my view. You can count on my money if you're charging for something. I think the bigger issue, the bigger impact on the business is not annoyed fans or people like, oh, I'm done with this sport if they're going to give a... No. Because if you're done watching the UFC because Arman didn't get a title shot, you were going to be done for some other small thing a day from now anyway. I think the bigger issue is what they're trying to do with boxing. And they're trying to turn boxing into what the UFC is, where they have the fighters under contracts, they issue the belts, they control the matchups, they do all of it. That's not how boxing works. Boxing is, you can have a TV deal and you can have your management deal, but the title is not from the promotion. The title is from the governing body. And they determine who the next person, this is the number one challenger, this person has to fight. And if you don't defend your belt, they strip you. And I think the UFC trying to get rid of that model, and using the business case like we will give fighters options, we won't hold fighters hostage in their contracts, we will ensure you get the best fights, but then publicly say you're refusing to give the most validated person the title shot because you're mad at him, just goes against every single case that the TKO Boxing team just made in front of the government. They just sat in front of the government making their argument. And then Dana's going to publicly say things like this that just rip the rug out from underneath that entire argument.
The Dana is doing this knowing that he's already got the votes in his pocket. You don't do this. Like, you don't act like this or say the things that you're saying. The commissions are all in support of the amendment of the Ali Act. They've all come out publicly and said, like, look, there needs to be a change. Boxing is dying. We're not getting as many good events. You know, fighters are not fighting as often. All of these things, they're making millions and millions of dollars. So that's great. But Dana's also come out and publicly said, money kills fights. Is the more money I pay you, the less great fights I get. Guys retire way before their time or their prime because they don't want to get punch drunk. All of these things, like, but money fucks up fights. You know, the Conor, made all that money against Floyd, and then after that, he was never really the same. And so, and Khabib makes all that money and then retired. Khabib was a different story. He retired because, a promise to his mother, which I fully respect. And the fact that he stuck with it is huge. But all of that being said, like, Dana is operating right now as like a man who knows that he's already got the votes. It's done. They're going to make the amendment to the Ali Act. They're going to go ahead and carry out the TKO Boxing. I mean, they've already sold and pitched it to, the networks. They've already got a deal for a certain amount of boxing events a year. It's done. Like, they wouldn't have went out there and done all this and sold the rights to TV and stuff yet unless they knew that they had the votes. So it's going to be amended no matter what. Now, this down the line may come back and bite them in the ass, because then I'm sure there'll be some fighters that are promoters that fight this and try to get it reinstated or not, not have the amendment go through, whatever the case is. But in this position right now, they're going to move forward regardless. This is the fight game. Welcome to the new world. This is what it is. We're going to get more fights. We're all going to tune in. We all want to see what it's about. We all want to see what the hype is. I know that the UFC is chasing, and you do too. They're chasing clicks and they're chasing views. That's what they need. They need people to tune in, especially headed into this TV deal, going like, okay, what are the best fights? Now, there was comments by Donald Trump. Oh, we're going to have 8 title fights. We know they're not going to have 8 title fights. There's 11 divisions.
I think that was
misspoke.
I think he just meant 8 fights.
Yeah.
And then, comes out, says the word championship, and now it's like, whoa.
Every person I've talked to said that they're not going to have 8 fights. They're going to have 6. So I heard like 2 prelims and basically like 4 big, main event cards on the main card. That's it. There's going to be 6 to 7 fights at the max. You can't have that. You can't, it's too much to really worry about on the White House lawn with the security. And, I guess apparently they're walking from the Oval Office. There's just too much going on security wise and trying to maintain everything. They can't do it for that long. And you can't have a 5-hour show. You need to have this straight, 3.5, 4 hours. Everyone wraps it up and they're gone. So, and you've got 80,000 people out on the lawn in the park across the street that'll be set up with TVs and all that. It's just going to be too much. The longer all those people are there, the bigger chance there will be for a huge fuck up. Fights out there, guns, shooting. Let's not pretend that there won't be instigators out there trying to stir up shit at the big event across the street. Like, there's a lot to handle if there's security and police officers and all that for this event. So don't be surprised, man. I'm thinking they're going to wrap this thing up as quick as they possibly can. And they're going to have the best fights they can. They're going to be knockouts. See, these are all things you didn't even take into consideration, huh?
No,
you thought, we're going to have a great UFC event. It's going to be this. No. There's going to be instigators at the UFC event across the street with TVs, fucking starting fires, fucking, basically starting fights. Don't be surprised if there's knives and all this other shit. They're going to have to be very careful. Security's going to have to be fucking on point for this event.
I'm trying to figure out how the hell we got from Arman getting a title shot to a White House rant about instigators in the crowd. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
What I'm saying is they're going to try to put together the fastest and best fights that end in knockouts on that card. It's going to be 5 to 6 fights, not
The
8
White
or
House
9.
card wasn't a topic.
Gotcha.
How the hell did you jump from Arman not getting a title shot, which will negatively impact the UFC's ability to repeal the Ali Act, to instigators in the White House parking lot?
That's a wild, man.
That's a wild leap.
Just keep.
I mean, that's you. Maybe you're just. Your brain is operating so
my
fast.
mind
Maybe
goes
I
right
can't
to,
keep up.
My mind
Maybe
goes right
that's
to like, what does the promoter go through? Because I've worked on that side. What does production have to go through? I've worked on that side. Like, there's so many different ways. Like, managers, what hoops should they have to jump through to make sure their fighters get tickets or have availability to have family there? Do they get one family? Like, I think about all this
You're
stuff.
still sticking with the White House thing.
I'm just talking about fights in general. Like, going into this CBS deal, it's a huge deal. There's going to be so many new like logistics they have to work through as managers, as promoters, as matchmakers, and obviously trying to get as many views as they possibly can. That's where I'm at.
It's definitely, I mean, it is the farther, the closer the UFC gets to entertainment and the farther it gets from just true sport, there's going to be more and more situations like this. And I don't hate that. I genuinely don't hate that. I know there's purists that are furious at the idea that the rightful number one contender is not getting a title shot. I get that. But, you know, this is entertainment. This is sports entertainment. This is beyond the NFL, right? If you look at the NFL, people are a fan of their team and they have been for generations. And it doesn't matter who the players are. You're going to wear your team jersey. You're going to root for your team. And every year, you're going to lose a couple players, get a few more, and you'll just continue to root for that team no matter what. That's just not the model that the UFC can operate in. They have to build individual humans to be intriguing enough, important enough, and exciting enough for all of us to decide to take our time and watch that. And sometimes you can't do that with the roster you have. And sometimes you do have to, you know, move things around. I don't think Arman's the most egregious because I agree with the whole, you screwed us at UFC 311. The issue is Dana said after that he will get the next title shot, and then he didn't. So to me, the lie there, or the fib, or whatever it is the issue. I think what's happening in the 145-pound division is the most obvious. We're chasing views over validity of anything. But at the end of the day, like, if you're the promoter, this is a question to you. If you're the promoter, you're Dana, and you just signed this massive Paramount deal, okay? Tremendous deal on Paramount, $1.1 billion a year, one of the most successful things you've ever done. And the second event, the Australia event, UFC 325, are you going to do Volkanovski versus Evloev, who people don't really, Evloev doesn't have this like giant loyal following. Are you going to do that fight for mediocre views? Or are you going to do an absolute banger of a rematch, somebody that is wildly popular both in Brazil and in Mexico, and do that fight?
Yeah.
You're going to chase the views.
Yeah.
You're going to do the bigger fight.
I look. Did I mention this? Because I know we were talking about it off air before we started. Did I mention the NFL and the playoffs and then the NC2A?
The college playoffs?
Yeah.
No.
So I'm really kind of relating this to everyone, like you said, is a fan of their team. Look, if the Buffalo Bills win the AFC Championship, they know they're going to the Super Bowl. Like, we know that they won. They're going to. You can't just say the NFL's not going to turn and go, you know what? We don't think they played well enough, so we're going to go ahead and put the Kansas City Chiefs in because they're going to do more views. That's not what they're doing. But I relate it more to how the NFL, or not how the NFL, but how the UFC works and how Dana works is they're like NC2A, the college playoffs and the brackets for March Madness. When they're making the selection, they're like, okay, which ones bring in the most revenue? Which ones will bring us more TV views? I honestly believe right now the NC2A is mad at Notre Dame. They're basically out there on an island by themselves. They're not with any SEC or ACC or whatever it is, right? They're out there on an island. They know that they can have the funding to do their own thing and carry their own. And they're like, yeah, we're going to show you. The Notre Dame lacrosse didn't make it into the playoffs. The Notre Dame football team didn't make it in the playoffs. They arguably could have. the argument with Notre Dame and Miami was outside of it. And then the last week, and they both won their games. Their last 3 weeks, they both won their games. And Notre Dame was always ranked ahead of them. But then at the end, they switched them. So Miami's in the playoffs and Notre Dame is out. That's no different than what's going on right now with what Dana's doing. They're just doing what's best for them. And that's what's going to always happen. I look at the UFC right now is very much how the selection committee is with the NC2A selection for the playoffs and the March Madness for college. People are going to be pissed off. They're going to be upset. But at the end of the day, they're doing what's best for them, their organization, and their money line. That's how you have to look at it. Now, I don't know how that shapes their argument for boxing. It does. It actually works against them. But
very much so, because
I go back to he's got I believe he thinks or knows that he's already got the votes in his pocket.
He must, because the whole point of the Ali Act, and I'm not going to break down the legalese of it all, but the entire point of the Ali Act is so that a single promoter can't control a boxer's fate, right? You can't be the person booking the fights, controlling the belt, dictating who gets a title shot. So that's what the Ali Act does. It separates all of those things so that one person or one entity can't railroad a career, can't force something to happen that shouldn't happen, like doesn't control all of that. The UFC model is very different. If you're under contract with them, they control your entire fate, every aspect of it. How much money you'll make, who you're going to fight next, when you're going to fight, if you're going to fight, what order you're going to fight in. Is it for a bet? Like, they control literally all of it. There are no guarantees other than, because of the class action lawsuit, we have to offer X number of fights a year. That's it. That's the only thing that they have to do. Those fights don't have to be competitive. They don't have to be good. They don't have to be broadcast. They don't have to be for a title. So you can fight nobodies on an undercard for your entire career if you piss them off. Or you could get offered stylistically horrendous matchups. Like, they control all of that. So for them to sit in front of the government and say, hey, the Ali Act needed to exist, I don't know when it came out, 50, 20, 30 years ago. I don't know. The Ali Act needed to exist then. It doesn't now. This is a different world. We operate differently now. So let's amend it. Let's change it. My business model works. We've done it for the UFC. Let me do this for boxing too. But the very thing that the Ali Act was there for is protecting the fighters from what you're doing to Arman. Now, Arman did do it to himself, and there will always be that piece where it's like, dude, you did pull out of a fight 12 hours before the fight. Like, you did this. But that's why the Ali Act is there. They're trying to get it repealed or amended so that TKO Boxing, the company that owns the UFC, they own WWE. I think do they own bull riding? And now, they're getting into boxing. They're trying to get into boxing the way that Dana does UFC. And to sit there and boastfully, without remorse, talk about, now, he still has a penance to pay. I'm not giving him a title shot. I don't care what his rank is. If that press conference happened before TKO was in front of, I don't know if they were in front of Congress or the Senate or whoever, before they were in front of them, that would have been clipped and quoted over and over and over in that hearing. Because it's just a bad look. Goes against literally their entire argument.
But they've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
They've been doing it for years. And mainly it works against the wrestlers. So, I mean, I don't know what, why is there not being more of an argument of, hey, look at the numbers. Habib had to win this many fights before he got a title shot. Islam had to win this many fights before he got a title shot. Bilal had to win this many fights before he got a title shot. Marab, it's normally skewed against the wrestlers. And then look at all the strikers that are world class that come in. They're still great strikers, but they don't have the legwork in the sample size. But yet they get fast tracked, 3 fights, title shot. Let's go. They give them more favorable matchups for them to win. I mean, look at Mauricio Ruffy. He should have beat Benoit Saint Denis. He could. I mean, it should. But Benoit is a better grappler. Utilized that tool. Dominated the fight. Sure. Yeah, dominated the fight. But that's not what they were hoping for. They put that fight together, hoping the two of them would stand and bang, and it didn't happen. Saint Denis took the easier way, a very smart fight
Smarter
IQ.
way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, easier way, but that's smarter. That's the smarter is the easier way. The easiest way or path of resistance. He dominated the fight. Now he's moving on. And where everyone now all of a sudden is like, dude, fraud check. And that's been the history of a lot of these stand-up fighters, right? The UFC looks for the stand-up fighters. They try to navigate them through the rankings, and then they get them to the title shot. And then if they win, I mean, not without taking a huge dig, and this is not a dig at him, Sean O'Malley. Will he ever get back to the title?
Well, we'll find out when he fights.
We fast-tracked him. We fast-tracked him. He's a big name. He's very he talks very well. He's a good representation, I believe, of the sport. Like, I'm sorry, but like he also, his fight over Jan, you could have said that he lost, which I think everyone agreed that he lost.
I think he lost that fight, but I don't think he's a good example, only because he did knock out the grapple heavy champion to become the champ.
Yeah, that's true.
Then he beat Cheeto. Like, he lost to Merab twice, but I agreed that the argument to him to even get to Aljo is a little weak. But then he knocked Aljo out. Then he defended his belt. So it's like, all right, he earned it.
No. What I'm saying, though, is that it was the path there, right, was stand-up guys.
The path there was a little...
You know what I mean? It was stand-up guys. And then he got to Peter Yan, like, who doesn't really wrestle a whole lot, but he's very good at it. It's good clinch work, more foot sweeps and trips and stuff. But he's not out there shooting double legs.
Sure.
And so they knew that, look, I can give him a ranking of a guy who's going to stand and box. And now I take Sean O'Malley, who's tall, long, and lanky, and he's going to fight a guy who predominantly boxes. I like Sean's chances to win that fight, and then it silences all the critics, and then he goes out there and fights Aljo and gets a beautiful knockout. But that's what I'm talking about. It's up to the fighter to win fights. Scott Coker used to say this, look, I put the best fights together that I possibly can. It's up to the fighters to win. I don't give a crap who wins. I put the best fights on.
Yeah.
The UFC, they navigate their guys, the ones they want, that have big followings and are good on the mic or whatever. They can sell themselves. They navigate those guys to the title. Okay, they do the best they can, but it's up to the fighter to still win the fight. Sean O'Malley beat Peter Yan on the scorecards. No matter how we scored it, he won, and he deserved to get to that title shot. He got to the title shot, and he handled his business. He handled that. So you can't knock him for that. I 100% think it's fantastic. But then who did they give him after that for the title shot after that? Wasn't it Cheeto again? Or who did they give him?
He fought Cheeto early in his career, and his ankle had the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had the nerve issue in his ankle. His first title defense was Cheeto.
That's what I'm saying. They gave him a guy that he had already
fought. That was a valid, I wouldn't call that bullshit. That was
No, it wasn't, but he was not the number one guy. Cheeto was never ranked.
I don't remember the rankings.
I think he was ranked 3 or 4
years ago at this point.
I think he was ranked 3 or 4, but he wanted that fight back. There was a storyline there. We could sell that. The fans didn't get too upset about it. Cheeto also, I think, was coming off that big win over Rob Font where he would lost 4 minutes of every round.
Favorite.
Yeah,
he's a fan favorite.
But see, we're not arguing or complaining about the fact that Cheeto wasn't ranked number 1 or number 2.
Well, probably because Dana didn't promise a title shot to the only issue with the Arman thing is he promised a title shot. He told all of us, the fans, Arman, Dan, whoever wins this fight gets the next title shot. And then was just like, I don't care. And then when they asked him about it, he didn't say, hey, we tried to do that. The timing wasn't going to work. We talked to Arman. He wasn't ready. He does have a small injury. It wasn't that. It was, I'm still mad at him. He screwed us. You guys are forgetting. He screwed us. It's like, but he had screwed you 3 weeks ago when you said he would get a title shot with a win. Nothing has. The only thing that changed between when you said that and when you're saying this is Arman had a spectacular performance. That's the only thing that changed. He actually made his case even better for if he was boring and it looked like the Islam JDM fight, just kind of laying there, controlling with wrestling, doing nothing, boring us to sleep. If it was that, I was trying to trigger you. You didn't care. If it was that, then it would be even more ridiculous because it's like, Dana, this is why you're not doing it. So I think Dana's genuinely holding a grudge. I understand. I'm a grudge holder. I understand holding the grudge genuinely, but just don't tell us you're going to do one thing and then do something else and nothing changed to change your mind. How have you guys not gotten used to this though? It's from everything. It's not just matchmaking. It's not just fights being made. It's not just being guaranteed title shots. It happens all the time. Something comes out of Dana's mouth. Remember, John Fitch will never fight in the UFC again. Literally 3 weeks later, he was signed again. We're back on. Had a good conversation with Lorenzo Fertitta.
Yeah, if we have to ban basically all of AK, like is the all of AK going to get kicked out because no one from our gym signed that deal. He just picked John Fitch because he fucking hated John Fitch because he was a wrestler and wasn't considered the most exciting.
I don't think it's a wrestler. I think it's boring because there's been boring strikers that have been kicked out too.
Which is crazy because John Fitch's run to GSP, he had 9 of 11 of his 11 fights.
Convince me that John Fitch was exciting.
9 of his 11 fights were finishes. Of his 11 fights leading up to the title, 9 of them were finishes. How was that not exciting? Just because you dominate somebody so bad, is that what makes it not exciting? Is that like the Floyd Mayweather attack? Where like
I think
Floyd was so
Floyd
good.
Mayweather's not exciting. He was defensively good.
But he's so good that and that's the thing. You're so good that you're so dominant and then just boring. Is that what your argument is then for John Fitch? Because 9 finishes in 11 fights.
Now you have me Googling. Here we go.
There we go. Google.
John Fitch.
I'm surprised you don't use chat more. Do you use chat at all?
Well, I'm going to his Tapology. It's just going to tell me straight up. 9 of his 11 were finishes. The guy has 20 decision wins.
Okay.
You just say things.
No.
All right, let me.
Leading up to his GSP fight, how many finishes did he have?
Okay. Here, leading up to his GSP fight, decision against Chris Wilson. Oh, I didn't know he beat Chris Wilson to earn his title fight.
Great guy.
A decision, split decision over Diego Lopez. He beats Jucow.
This Diego Lopez wasn't around back then.
Diego Sanchez. I didn't say
Sanchez. But Diego was a good fighter back then. We're gonna call him like, well,
I'm just saying decision. Dude, you literally just make up.
No. How many? How many finishes?
So he was
I
on
didn't ask for decisions. I asked for finishes.
I'm going to tell you what the win streak was.
Let me pull this up. I don't trust you. You can't be trusted.
It's on Tapology. Here, in the UFC, his first fight was Brock Larson, decision. Then he submits Jock Berkman. He finishes Thiago Alves in a fight he was losing. A decision against Hironakana. 2 chokes, 2 decisions. 11 finishes. This is just obscene. You're just
I didn't say 11.
Things.
I said 9. Wait, then he got to GSP?
He has 4. It's 4 finishes.
Okay,
what,
so
9?
4.
It's
4 out of what? 8 fights to get to? Because he had like an 11 fight
1,
streak
2,
to get
3,
to GSP.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8 UFC fights. 4
Before
out of
he
8
got to
UFC
GSP?
fights.
Before he got to GSP?
Correct.
Okay, so out of those, 8 of them, 4 of them were finishes. So half, 50%.
Dude,
that's
this
horrible.
Is a crazy rabbit hole to go down. John, you're
the one that looked it up. I was going to go ahead and just keep talking about it.
And then after that, after GSP, decision against Gono, decision against Count, decisions.
After that. Yeah. I mean, Josh Koscheck had some great fights before that, and then after he lost to GSP, he was never the same. Broken arm.
Well, and it's not even like John Fitch started losing. It's just decision. But the whole point, damn it, was that it's boring. It's not just wrestlers. It's just boring. Like if we go to Biggie Boy, Jairzinho Rosenstruik, the UFC cut him. In a heavyweight division that desperately needs people, they cut him because he's boring. He's a striker, only a striker. Attempted 0 takedowns, boring as hell. So they cut him. So I don't think it's why does UFC hate wrestlers. I think wrestlers tend to be more boring. I think it's, hey, this is the view business, and if I spend the time and money to convince people to watch you, and then you go out there and do that, adios, like bye.
Yeah, because you've also heard guys like Corey Anderson and other fighters have been forced to kind of like take a stand on trying to be more of a stand-up fighter. You got to stand, you got to do and that ends up ruining their career.
Oh, I agree, because you know what? There was a point in time in 2024 where we had big what the hell is his last name? Carl something. Williams? Carl Williams. He was a big wrestler, a heavyweight, a good wrestler, a pretty dominant, having a good career. And then they said that unofficially the UFC told him, hey, you need to strike more. You're wrestling too much. And there was about 3 fighters in like a 2-month period that publicly said, yeah, they told me to strike more. And all of them like didn't do well because they were fighting differently than what got them there. And now I do not think the UFC should ever tell somebody how to fight. Yep. I do think, though, it is perfectly appropriate for the UFC to be like, you don't move the needle, dude. You're boring. And people don't like to watch boring fights. I'm not trying to put on boring fights, so figure out how to be exciting, or I'm not going to extend your contract.
Yeah, I think
that's a reasonable conversation.
That's more, I can see that approach. Like, yeah, hey,
but don't tell them how to be exciting.
Yes.
be exciting.
Look, because you can look, everyone thought Khabib was boring too in the beginning. He was kind of all over the place. But then as fights went on, he got better at ground and pound. He got better at controlling the body. And then the ground and pound was nasty. And the talking to his opponents, he fucking took off after that.
Well, and then eventually dominance catches up. Like eventually it's like Grant Dawson. I'm going to keep going back to it. You're going to keep glazing Khabib. I'm going to keep railroading Grant Dawson. Same concept though. Both of them pretty boring, except Khabib just kept winning. And the more he won, the more dominant he got. Same with Merab up until the other day.
I mean, never lost a round until he got
kept winning, kept getting dominant. And so people start to rally behind that and appreciate, wow, this guy, he won't lose. We're like a Grant Dawson, boring win, gets knocked out. Boring win. So like Grant Dawson is somebody that the UFC may just cut, even though not right now, but like, let's say you lose 2 of 5 and the UFC might be like, dude, you're too boring for all this money. Goodbye.
Yeah, that's very hard. It's hard to say you have the best fighters in the world and you just keep cutting the wrestlers when they lose one fight because they're boring. It's hard to say that. That's always been my argument with them.
But they do it. They just did it. They just do it to. They just did it.
There's fighters that are in other organizations that their contracts came due and they decided not to sign them. They're like, nope, you're too wrestling. Do it. And they're like, yeah, like we're not looking for that. We're looking for more. And then that's what's sad. You can't continue to keep telling people that you have the best fighters in the world when you don't. You've got the majority of them, but you got 1 or 2 or 4 or 5 that are out there that could be dominant in your organization, but you don't bring them on because they're basically just more wrestling based.
I definitely would not be signing new boring fighters. I'll tell you that. I mean, why would you do that? Like,
yeah,
I understand.
I like your argument though about like you approach the fighter and go, hey, we're struggling with you during your time. People are tuning out. So you need to find a way. I don't care if you ground him. I don't care if you wrestle, but you've got to be more active on the top. I'm not telling you how to fight, but you've got to change your style to get more people or do a better job on the mic.
Talk. Yeah. Something. Yes. You got to
create something. If you're going to be fucking boring in the cage, give me something to work with on the outside. Social media is huge. Get on there, hire a PR guy, something that gives you that pop. Okay. Learn how to talk on the mic and talk shit, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Build your brand in a way that we can sell it.
Sean Strickland's a good example. That dude's boring as shit, dude.
But that's how
Sean Strickland is not exciting.
Those were things that we used to talk about at the summits, the UFC summits, and they stopped doing them because fighters just came then and got partied and drunk and then came and just very rarely showed up to the meetings. And then, but it was a good opportunity to like learn how to like blow yourself up with social media taking off at the time. Now, I mean, you just need to hire a camera guy, spend a couple $100, or $100 a day or whatever it is, and have a camera guy follow you around during training. You cut it, you edit it, you throw it out there. That right there will gain you millions, or not millions, but thousands and thousands of views automatically. Then you just the ball keeps rolling. The more you get, the easier it is to get it. So you just got to keep doing. You got to find a way to build it if you're going to be boring.
As a fan of the sport, you want to connect with fighters. You want to connect with them like, oh, I also have a kid, or oh, I also have the same hobbies that this guy has, or oh, that was funny, or like Robert Whitaker. People love Robert Whitaker because like he plays video games and he's just funny and normal, and people love Volk's cooking videos. So you want to humanize yourself, and people want to connect with you. And I think that's what happened with Arman. I think people have finally started to connect with him because everybody roots for an underdog, and Arman pissed the fans off, pissed the UFC off when he backed out of the fight versus Islam. But he paid his dues. He weighed in as a backup. He goes out there, fights Dan Hooker. He's doing videos to humanize himself. He's leaning into this whole, like, I'm rich, because his family is very rich. He goes out there. He has an exciting fight. He puts on a good performance. And then he basically gets screwed, and the people rallied behind him. Arman getting screwed out of this title fight might be one of the best things that's ever happened to Arman, because he's going to keep winning. He's going to keep winning. And obviously, maybe he won't make the immediate money right now, but he literally is rich. His family like owns an island. So I think now Arman, who got screwed, everybody has sympathy for Arman. I don't know a lot of people that like, screw that guy. So everybody has sympathy for him. He has a whole legion of brand new fans, and he might have an easier fight now because we don't know how the division's going to play out, but he's certainly, if they're not giving him Ilya, I mean, I don't know who they're going to give him, but everybody is easy. Ilya's the only hard fight for him. Everybody else is easy. So, you know, I think this actually probably all worked out positively for Arman, and I think it worked out negatively for Dana, at least perception-wise, because it's a hard thing to defend, especially when you're in front of the government, begging them to change rules and regulations, and doing so, you know, acting separately from what your argument is pitching. Like,
yeah, you're acting like you're above the law.
Do as I say, not as I do, is like, what, you know, basically, yeah, don't pay attention to what Dana said. Well, I promise we won't do that with boxing, even though it's going to be the same guy doing the same things.
Yeah, I mean, look, however you guys want to say it, however you guys want to look in this video, I believe it's like more skewed against the wrestlers. I believe it's not just directed at Arman. I think it's, if the headline was going to be something, is Arman destroying TKO Boxing? Like that could be the argument on this if you wanted to headline this video. Or could it be, you know, why does Dana hate wrestlers? It could be that as well. I don't know what we're going to do with the headline, but look, that's kind of my argument in this situation. Leave the comments down below. Let us know what you think. You think boxing should be run this way? Should we get rid of the Ali Act? Should we make the amendment to the Ali Act? And yeah, there's a lot of things that people are talking about. Let's figure it out. Happy holidays. I don't know when we'll see you guys again next time, but
we're not. I mean, there's so much time between now and Christmas.
I leave tonight to California. So
that's right. You're gone.
I feel like my holiday is starting right now.
Damn.
So, all right, man. Well, hey, leave the comment down below. Like and subscribe to this video. I want to thank you guys so much for continuing to support Bad Takes. And this is Angelo. I'm Josh Thompson. Talk to you soon.